experience.
Home movies of the trip were taken by Nixon's Chief of Staff, Bob Haldeman, and his aide, Dwight Chapin.
It was very striking to get off the airplane and to have these great, huge poster signs saying "capitalist pigs," and so I mean, just these slogans that were putting down America, or putting us down, is the way we took it. And we saw those as we drove into town.
In Shanghai, China's great trading port, the party leadership was dominated by hardliners who despised Nixon's America. Haig's host used the welcoming ceremony to attack American imperialism around the world.
When he concluded, I sat there. I was not going to return that toast because I didn't want that fellow or the Chinese government to think that that would be acceptable for an American president to be exposed to.
And after the dinner, the Shanghai leaders rushed into our office and, really protested and said General Haig was insulting the Shanghai leaders.
And I can remember my State Department experts saying, you are real trouble. You have probably destroyed the president's visit.
General Haig's next stop was Hangzhou, Mao's summer retreat. There on a sightseeing cruise, the president's stand-in was snubbed again.
We got on the boat, and I found that there was really nothing to eat on the table. There were only tea, nothing else, no fruit, no snacks. Of course, there was no heating in the boat, so everything was so cold, and the Hangzhou leader didn't say anything, so nobody spoke.
Translator Zhang Hanja was baffled. She asked the head of protocol in Hangzhou why Haig's reception was so frigid.
He told me, last night we laid the table, we prepared the boat, and you should have come in last night to see. There were sumptuous food on the table, everything on the table. He said, it's not our decision. The Shanghai leaders called us and said we must lower the temperature.
The Beijing officials accompanying Haig's party decided to intervene.
In the end, the younger ones really decided to call Beijing, and we did. And Premier Zhou said, I would report to Chairman Mao Zedong immediately.
We left Hangzhou and we took a train back to Shanghai, and we had some meetings on the train, at which time we tried to untangle what was going on with the Chinese.
And then news came to say that Chairman Mao thinks it was all wrong, that General Haig and his group should be treated that way. Zhou Enlai really criticized us very, very seriously. And he said what happened in Shanghai and Hangzhou almost upset the whole strategy of Mao Zedong's plan of break the ice between the US and China.
Chairman Mao's last-minute instructions saved the day. The Chinese hardliners' attempt to head off President Nixon's visit had failed. On February 17, 1972, Richard Nixon set out on his historic trip to China. 2 years of effort had led to the moment. Yet, no one knew if the Chinese were prepared to agree to anything. Secretary of State William Rogers tried to lower expectations.
We hope that our relations with the People's Republic of China will be improved as a result of the trip. We're not sure what the outcome will be, and we certainly don't want any exaggerated hopes to develop.
Accompanying Nixon on the trip would be a carefully chosen group of journalists and television crews.
The Chinese were very reluctant to have the press come. They just didn't want it. They just wanted to have this thing quietly On the other hand, Nixon wanted a television spectacular. First of all, it's 1972, it's an election year. He wants to advertise this great triumph. So after some negotiations, the Chinese agree, and we have about 85 journalists. Almost all of them were television people. This was going to be a television show.
But the script had yet to be written. Nixon did not even know if there would be a meeting with Chairman Mao. We were embarking, Nixon remembered, on a voyage of philosophical discovery, as uncertain and in some ways as perilous as the voyages of geographical discovery of an earlier time.
And there's Mrs. Nixon and the President.
American television networks interrupted their regular programming to broadcast the President's arrival live.
First handshake with Zhou Enlai.
The Chinese surprised Nixon almost immediately. Taken to the government's guest house to rest before the evening's banquet, Nixon was interrupted just as he was about to enter the shower. Chairman Mao wanted to meet the President. The chairman had Taiwan and its leader, Chiang Kai-shek, on his mind.
He said, "I see where your friend Chiang Kai-shek called me a bandit." After the translation, I said, "What does the chairman call Chiang Kai-shek?" And he said, "Well, I call him a bandit too." And then Zhou Enlai says, "We just abuse each other." And then they both threw back their heads and laughed.
He acted as if he absolutely had no other assignment in the world except to deal with his American counterpart.
I said, "You're quite aware of my sentiments with regard to communism. I'm considered to be a rightist." And he says, "Oh, I like rightists." He said, "I like Prime Minister Heath." I said, "Well, sometimes those on the right can do things which those on the left can only talk about. I could do it because no one could question my so-called anti-communist credentials." He had to be helped to stand up for the handshake. Rather pretty Chinese girls lifted him up and helped him walk over.
As the meeting concluded, the Chinese came in with instant photographs of the meeting, all of us sitting there. Nixon and Kissinger began whispering to each other.
The two men had an embarrassing problem. They had excluded Secretary of State Rogers from the meeting, but had brought along a young member of Kissinger's staff, Winston Lord.
Kissinger realized if Rogers saw the photo, he would be very angry. We solved the Lord problem.
In the published version, the Chinese simply cropped Winston Lord out of history.